Regardless of this or any other review for that matter, Samsung will sell a lot of the Galaxy S5, and indeed already have. With the previous Galaxy S4 and even the Galaxy Note 3 device, Samsung has made themselves pretty comfortable in the world of Android manufacturers, claiming the #1 spot, in fact. Because of this, it's easy to hear people calling other Android devices Galaxy devices. And when told it's an Android device, their eyes simply glaze over. What's Android? It might be because of this, actually, that I've been noticing powered by Android at the bottom of newer phones when they boot up. Google's doing, perhaps? I have my own theories for why this is, and it boils down to marketing budgets, gimmicks that allow you to say, my phone can do this and yours can't, and attack ads calling out those features. But regardless, and despite the Galaxy S4 not topping anyone's list of best Android devices last year, it's working for old Sammy. This brings us to the Galaxy S5, the sequel to the ever-popular Galaxy S4, and without discussing if it'll even be a hit sales-wise, since we know that answer, let's put it through its paces to see if it's just a hit at all. Just like any successor to a popular device, everything's been bumped up slightly as far as specs are concerned. Starting with the screen, we have a 5.1-inch 1080p screen up from a 5.0 1080p screen on last year's Galaxy S4 that still gives great contrast, sunlight visibility, and color thanks to its Super AMOLED display that Samsung is sort of known for nowadays. From there, we have a bump in processing power to 2.5 GHz out of a quad-core processor up from 1.7, a bump in battery up 2,000 milliamps, and a 3 megapixel jump for the camera, which is now 16 megapixels versus the 13 megapixels of last year. In addition to the bumps, Samsung has added some hardware to the device, the first of which is a fingerprint sensor. This sensor, which is built into the home button, is used for unlocking the device, similar to an iPhone 5S, and making purchases using PayPal. Which is great and all, but in all honesty, trying to use it with one hand is pretty near impossible, forcing you to hold it with one hand and use the other to unlock it, which, let's face it, is annoying. But hey, it's another thing you can add to your nanny boo-boo, I have this and you don't list. Unless you're talking to a person that has an iPhone 5S. The other piece of hardware that Samsung has added is the heart rate sensor located next to the camera flash on the back of the device. If you open the S Health app and tap on heart rate, you can then hold your finger on the sensor and have it display your heart rate after a few seconds. Unlike the fingerprint sensor, I can think of a few friends and family members that honestly would use this as something to actually make their life a bit easier by allowing them to leave their other heart rate monitor gadget at home next time they go to the gym. Something else Samsung has added that might help when that sweaty person is trying to use the heart rate monitor is an IP67 certification. Which means that the device is water resistant, not proof mind you, but it'll be able to handle some sweat, rain, or the also popular drop in the toilet. The downside to the certification, however, is the annoyance of having to pull open the flap that is protecting the USB port every time you want to connect the charger or plug it into a computer. Other hardware in the device includes that USB 3.0 jack at the bottom that is hidden by the flap that I just mentioned, and yes, you can use a normal micro USB connector with this, it just goes in 1/2. So that means that your old micro USB cables and chargers will still work. The volume rocker is located on the left side, while the power button is located on the right, following the trend it seems nowadays, which I'm always happy to see as it makes a lot more sense than putting the power button on top and forcing you to awkwardly move your hand to the top of the device to turn it off. The headphone jack is located at the top of the device, as well as the IR blaster that you can use to control a TV using their TV app. If you want more information on how that works, I did a video on how that's becoming or going to become a new standard in phones, in my opinion, and you can check that out by clicking the link below. Keep in mind, I do talk about it on an HTC device, but they're all very similar in the way that they work, so it should give you a general understanding. And then inside we have our 2800 milliamp battery, a spot for a micro SIM, and a micro SD card slot that allows you to expand the memory for your music, photos, apps, etc. to 128 gigabytes. You'll also notice on the back of the battery cover these strange outlines. This is the seal that allows the device to have that IP67 certification and stops water and dust from getting in, again, up to a point. The camera on the Galaxy S5 is great. In fact, it might be one of the best, up there with the Nokias and the iPhone 5S. The images are sharp, and Samsung has clearly spent a lot of time on the camera's software, at least in terms of adding as many features as they could into it. Since I'm not one to use most of these, I don't have much to say about it. I prefer taking a shot with everything on auto and seeing how well that comes out as opposed to fiddling with settings and tweaks. This is, of course, a different story when using an SLR, but for my phone, I want to be able to take it out of my pocket, take the pic, maybe share it to a social network, and then put it back in my pocket. Also, since these features are software-based, you can usually find another camera app in the Play Store to do most of them pretty well, regardless of your device. So it's not something I would consider when deciding whether or not to buy the Galaxy S5. Okay, while we're on the topic of software, we need to get to the UI scan that Samsung puts on top of Android here on the Galaxy S5. I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of it. While it is a bit better than the software on the Galaxy S4 in that they've toned it down a bit and made it a little less toy-looking, there is still a feeling of it babying me. As if they tried to make it simpler and less intimidating, but it just comes off as a little childish, at least to me. Big cartoony icons, huge lists pointing out all of the software Samsung has added, a font to match, and even a water sound every time you touch the screen on by default. Add to that warnings every time I take the back cover off to make sure that I put it back properly, a similar warning for the USB flap, and one for whenever I turn up the volume on my headphones, and you might be able to see what I mean. If you want a more in-depth, albeit slightly long, walkthrough of Samsung's TouchWiz, head to my video I did recently, linked below. With all that said though, at the end of the day, I care more about the hardware than anything else on an Android device. Why? Well, that's part of the beauty of the way Android is designed. If I don't like something, I can just replace it. From the messaging app, to the calendar, to the phone, to the home screen launcher itself. I can simply head to the Play Store and find something more to my liking. So the fact that it has a great camera, screen, and top-of-the-line hardware, and I can customize all the things I'm not a fan of in the software, it's a device that I might actually consider buying. If only I could come to terms with all of that damn fake metal. So I had a lot of opinions on this device, but I tried to keep it as short as possible. If you want to hear more of them, or if you guys want to tell me what you think, because I'm really interested to know what you guys think about this device and the HTC One and even the Oppo Find 7 and the OnePlus One, all devices that are coming out soon that I'll hopefully get my hands on. But please follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus by searching for The Unlocker. There's an E missing in Unlocker. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel here to keep up to date on all the things that I'm doing and even to request videos that you might want to see. As always, guys, thanks for watching.